have that issue. Plus, I love this, the time zone change, Oregon.
Yeah.
I didn't even get a chance to tell you in like our pre-conversation. I'm sitting here, finding my shovels as we're getting ready for what is it, 12 plus inches here in
Oh,
Virginia,
nice.
which is a huge deal for us because we hardly get snow. And you've got a short sleeve shirt on and looks like you're going to go to the beach later today, which is
Oh, well, I
awesome.
mean, it's yeah. Well, it's 30 degrees out here, and
Oh,
we're a
okay.
little light. My snowboarding pass is not getting exercised because we're a little dry this year. So the local mountains aren't getting the snow I would prefer or we're accustomed to. So
Nice, nice.
yeah,
Well, as I told our guest, I rarely set out with a topic for or a theme for each season of the podcast, and this year we've kind of just stumbled into Masonic education, and I'm so excited to have this conversation because we know there's a need for it. We know that brothers
yeah,
are trying to pursue it. We know there's a lot of avenues, but we finally have an example, a case study here of a brother who is revitalizing his lodge education experience by actually kind of creating a lessons plan in his own workflow. And that's why we've had him come on to our podcast. He's the junior warden and lodge education officer of Grants Pass Lodge, number 84 in Oregon. Brother Garrett Pottmeyer, welcome to the Craftsman Online podcast.
hey, thank you so much. And actually, I am officially senior warden now. As when we last spoke, elections hadn't occurred in Oregon yet. So
Look at you,
I know,
upgraded.
moving up, moving up.
How's the view from the west?
Oh, it's pretty interesting. And, as everything, it builds. And you're like, oh, I have so much to do right now. And watching it from junior warden, like, all right, couple lines. I love this.
And
So
when does your Masonic year start in Oregon?
December 27th.
Okay, so you've been doing this for a while. Have you already had guys come up and start like, "Hey, for your year, are you going to be doing this or that?" And you're like, "Bro, I just got in the chair. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not even thinking about the East yet."
Yeah, yeah. No, I haven't got any of that yet just because of the transition has just occurred. But the current worshipful is, and he's just like, oh, yeah, wait, well, I'm trying to do this. Okay, well, I'm trying to do this. And you just watch the line of guys go, hey, what about this? What about this? Whoa, everyone, I got a couple themes for my year. Let me get to it.
Nice.
So,
Well,
yeah.
I'm sure one thing that's going to carry over at Grants Pass Lodge number 84 is this education program that you put together. And as a former lodge education officer myself in the Grand Lodge of New York, this is a challenge, man. It's really tough. We know it's something that all lodges should be doing. We know it's something that all brothers want to do. Some people look at Masonic education as like a chore. Others go, well, this is a requirement that the Grand Lodge is giving us, so we have to provide something. But the other part of it is it really comes down to the fact that a lot of brothers are well meaning and well intentioned. They're just not properly trained and they don't really have a background in the education process. Where do
Sure.
you find yourself in that scale?
Well, to give you a little background, so Oregon has no official title of Oregon Education Officer. So I was kind of self-appointed because I started going to meetings and I go, well, where's all the teachings we talk about? How are we making good men better? And it looks like we're just, we're going through doing the business meeting. All right, see you guys later. I'm like,
Mm.
well, that's not great. So when I started, I brought it up to the worshipful master. I'm like, hey, can I do education? Oh, oh, sure. Sure. Do you know what you want to talk about? Yeah, yeah. I've got some topics. And I just kind of took it from there. So, and it's been a lot of trial and error because as I've found, not every Mason is interested in education
Hmm.
or really some of the self betterment part, like as a point of self reflection or continual betterment or actions daily rather than on that day of the week.
Very powerful statement there, and we have the disclaimer that runs the beginning of the program.
Oh, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, and no one here is looking to get canceled or anything.
Right.
I do have a guess that that's a dream of his, and he's a little stick of dynamite to deal with.
Yeah.
But in this instance, in generalities, you touched on a stereotype which I have found to also be true. I've been a master mason for over 10 years now, and
Nice.
I'm in two different jurisdictions, a member of multiple lodges, and I have found that there are some brothers, and unfortunately, if I had to assign a percentage to it, I would say it's probably about 78% of Masons that once they do the Heramic Legend and complete their third degree, that is the day that formal Masonic education ends for them. And it's a
Yeah,
very sad thing, in my opinion.
it is. And I think a lot of it has to do with culture. We are we're on this idea for a long time, and there's a couple authors that bring it up and hit it home about numbers equals success. and we haven't got back to the idea that actually the quality of the members equals success. And it's a
Hmm.
tough transition. I see it with a lot of brothers coming in, myself included, and about 5 to 10 years before that of guys that have come in, and that's what they're looking for. Excuse me, especially Gen X. I'm definitely finding that generation to be like, hey, I want to do this. I'm looking for this. A lot of prospects coming in. I want self betterment. I want self reflection. How do I make myself better?
Hmm.
I'm also finding stuff where guys are coming in and they either had a non-existent or a poor father figure in the household, and they did not get a lot of those teachings or that inculcation from a man figure in their life,
Yep.
or a masculine figure in their life, I should really
Yeah,
say.
no, I totally pick up exactly what you're putting down. I think there's a lot of hope for the future generation that is coming through in masonry now, because as you pointed out, the more conversations I've had, they are asking more of the philosophical based larger questions about Freemasonry, where
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of brothers that came in that are my age, I hate to say this, but dude, I'm pushing 50. I turned 48 this year.
Same here.
Um,
Same here. I'll be
oh,
40. I'll be 48 as well. So,
nice. Welcome to the club. How'd you get all the hair? Where did that come from?
oh
Like,
man, if the camera's facing the other way,
okay.
it's
Oh, that's my problem. I got to
yeah,
put a camera behind me. Oh,
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
solution. Damn it, if I only knew.
I know, right?
But yeah, I feel like, and not to question anything, and again, we're just speaking in generalities, and
Sure,
I do want to get
of
to the
course.
point that we all do come in looking for that self improvement. We approach it in different angles. A lot of it does, I think also come to the fact that, the guys, the pitchers, so to speak, the pitching coaches, the batting coaches of the lodges, that they're not there, that you'll get
Yeah,
appointed a mentor or a brother that knows the ritual enough to get you through to the catechism to the next stage. Then you become a
yeah,
master mason, and really developing that education. To your point, if your Grand Lodge doesn't have a program, then you have to build your own. So I want to get to this program that you outlined and put together for
yeah.
Grants Pass Lodge number 84 in Oregon. Where did it start? Like the initial, like, you're driving home from lodge, were you out running in the morning? Were you sitting in a meeting at work and you're like, I need to put together a lodge education program?
It was just something I'm interested in. I've coached youth sports for years, so I have that as the background of like, okay, I have to build programs, and it's not only the idea of going through the motions; it's adding context to it. Like if you don't have something in your education program that there's a takeaway,
Mm,
often it just falls on deaf ears. Yeah, yeah, I've heard about the 24-inch gauge. Thank you. When is this done? And it's if you the biggest part is that take home. How do I apply it to my life? So if you so it and it didn't really occur. It was probably driving home from a meeting to get back to your question, where it's just like, I would like to learn about this. I want to know more about this. Or how come we don't talk about this? Or how come when I ask questions, nobody has my answers? And
mm,
it should be stuff that I would think is as common knowledge, but it's not. Because as you've said frequently, the fire hose of information that come in those lectures is a ton. And
mhm,
so to reconcile all of that from memory, as you already went through ceremonies and you're just overwhelmed, it's a night. Initiation is a night. And
mm.
then you go, here's a ton of information. I hope you retain some of it.
So let's get into this, because I had to build something similar. There was a difference being a member of a Grand Lodge of one jurisdiction where we definitely had a proficiency that was outlined and an expectation that was set when it came
Yeah.
to the catechism and what you needed to do and know to advance through the degrees.
Yeah.
Then being a member in another jurisdiction where at the base level, it's like, well, being able to read the cipher is
Yeah.
enough to get you to the next degree. Just being able to read the like, think about the differences here.
Yeah.
So for when I was going into the East, it was in a similar role. That's why I was so turned on about your story. I was junior warden, and I was like, well, here's an opportunity to kind of build a program to at least help these guys that are coming through, so that by the time I master, we can have the larger discussions in lodge. We can elevate or enhance their experience as a Mason to maybe where they want to come to lodge. So when we bring in speakers, we have programs or even
Yeah.
discussions, they feel like they can participate, because I've always said, if you can't speak the language, it's no fun to visit. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So Where did yours set out? Were you sitting there as junior warden and you're like, there are three things that every guy needs to know when they go through the entered apprentice degree, and there are these three things? Or was it, I want them to know this about the catechism, or they should be seeking this from book or some sort of education source?
It kind of started watching daily actions and general questions that couldn't be answered. So after I was initiated and passed and raised, I stepped into senior steward, and even before that, I was doing education in lodge because it seemed to be a shortage, and
Mm,
so it was with regards to the fire hose of information. All the tools that are brought up in the entered apprentice degree, and especially in the catechism, being the 24-inch gauge and the common gavel. Well, how do you use these and why are these the first tools offered? They're super important. And especially Masonically, once you get involved, you can find out how quickly that 24-inch gauge gets blown out. Because,
mm.
I mean, for me, I love it. I'm trying to figure out how to work less, do masonry more, because it's something I really enjoy. It's very fulfilling.
Hold on,
And
that's gonna be my new T-shirt. Work
yeah,
less, do masonry more. Love
yeah,
that
yeah. Oh,
quote.
I like that. But I mean, there's things like that where you go, I have to, I want to do this more. Some of it's why don't other people want to do this more? And using that tool. So I find a lot of imbalance with, our own lives. And then you watch brothers around the lodge and you go, this guy is way out of whack. Like he's so, he's working 68 hours a week. He's trying to figure out his family masonry. He wants to do it, but there's barely any time. So he
Mm,
he might make a stated. Be lucky to see him at a degree. So it just started with the need for the use of the tools.
mm,
So like on an education for 24-inch gauge, and I've done it at a couple lodges. And so it starts with just discussion, because discussion is key, and it's not only hearing it, but it's having, if you can, some visual aid, always key, and then actually having some sort of discussion either during the education or just after, so you get to hear people. So for the 24-inch gauge, we're discussing the three equal parts, and then on top of that we're going, okay, do you understand what balance is? And it
mhm.
sounds ridiculous when every you would assume everybody knows what balance is, but then when you watch their lives and the choices they make, you go, oh, that person
Hello.
doesn't actually understand it.
Yes, hello, chaos.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And a key point of that balance is you can take parts from that equally balanced gauge and you can substitute one for another, but and still stay in balance. Sometimes bills have to be met. You've got to work a little bit more. You need time for family. You need time for the great architect and the lodge. You're going to find those balances. Sometimes it'll be less. Sometimes it'll be more. But you have to have all the parts in order to have some resemblance of balance.
Mm,
So explaining that, and then part of it is going around, I'll go around the room, brother, how do you find balance? And sometimes it's very interesting how many people don't understand that question. They'll tell you how they divide up their day. They won't tell you actually how they find a balance because they've never thought about it before. It's not so much a discuss. It's not so much, excuse me. It's they they hear the question, but they've never applied it to their own life. And so when you give them, then I try to give them an exercise to take home, essentially Masonic homework. And so after the discussion, so we've engaged, we've discussed, I've heard from people around the room. And then the Masonic homework is take 30 minutes of your week, whether it's this week, next week, whether it's just this month, before next stated meeting. Take 30 minutes to do something you want to do or have been wanting to do. You've got a project that's been on the back burner, because the exchange in finding balance is to do something you want to do, and but it can't take away so much out of the rest of your life that you go, well, I spent too much time here, I can't come back to this. So you
mm.
can't blow out one part of your gauge and then expect to expand the other part of your gauge. So take 30 minutes this week, do something you've really wanted to do. And if you find the fulfillment in it, realize then, look at your week, how it was balanced. Where can I take from my week in order to do this project again, another 30 minutes next week? And so they have a take home project, Masonic homework. And then sometimes we're able to get to it in stated meeting. Hey, what would you guys think? Did anybody try this, and kind of hear it? A lot of the
Mhm.
times it's crickets, and that's okay. But then sometimes after lodge, somebody comes up and goes, "Man, thank you. That was an awesome idea. I just got to work on this old pickup I've been wanting to get to, and it was awesome. It was so great. And now I'm working on how do I get back to that to get to do it again and again."
Mm. I got about 15 thoughts right now. And one of them is something that you and I want to talk about privately, because now my mind is going back to that solving world problems until the wee hours of the morning patio
Yeah.
conversation I had with
Yeah.
you. Remembering all of these things now.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, man, Garrett needs to get a podcast, and we need to get him into the Craftsman Online podcast network, because what you're talking about is exactly what guys are looking for. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's going to, I mean, I'm going to step over here in case a lightning bolt comes crashing down, and also to avoid anything that would get thrown at me. But it reminds me a lot of, and I'm not saying Freemasonry is a religion. I don't want to go down that road with anybody ever. But what you're talking about is less education and more study, more practical study. And
Yeah.
that's what guys are looking for. They want to know, how do I take this thing that has been beautifully outlined and simply defined in our ritual? We memorize with the 24-inch gauge. I
Yeah.
would hope you could walk up to any Mason on the street and ask them, and they will repeat the ritual back to you. You're like, perfect, you pass.
Yeah.
But now how do I incorporate this into my everyday life? And whether it's
Okay.
reading books, getting the Masonic, working tools of the day, flip calendar, if people even use those anymore, but something like this to really challenge them and go,
Yeah.
make it fun. And that's how you get it. So I
Yeah.
think the general question and I'm hoping that our listener is sitting here going, man, my lodge doesn't do anything like this. But guess what, dude? It can. And it can start with you. And here's how you can do it. Because I don't have an educator's background. I remember from our conversation, you're an entrepreneur. So do you have a background at all in education or adult education or anything that would equate to what you're doing right now for your lodge?
No, no, not specifically.
Right. So we're just guys that are
Yeah.
passing on the knowledge, and you found a structure to do it. And I think that's where kind of the secret sauce is. So if you don't mind, I want to
Yeah.
kind of get into the kitchen on this a little bit,
Sure.
because during our conversation before the podcast, you specifically pointed out two sources that you use. And they will hear this in the post production of the podcast, little ding bell when I say them, because
Yeah.
these are the two that I would go to as well. One of them is a classic. It's Wilmshurst, The Meaning of Masonry. And the other is a book that I have 3 copies of it in that bookshelf behind me, because I always give out one to our newly obligated EA. And when I sit down to work with them, I'm like, this is going to be our little class book here. And it's
Oh,
Kirk
nice.
MacNulty's Working the Way of the Craftsman. I love that
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
What drew you to those two sources, and what were you taking them out, and how did you use these brothers' wisdom to educate or help the brothers of your lodge study to become better Freemasons?
So Wilmhurst is actually the sole reason I am a Mason.
Mm.
So I came across his work during COVID, taking my kids to bookstores. Uh, and so this was just sitting on the shelf. My grandfather was a Mason. I then after the fact realized that found out my great grandfather was as well, but they never talked about it. And so it's not like that was, oh, I'm keeping up the lineage, my dad was an elk. And so it just wasn't a thing. But I came across this book in the bookstore, and it was just beaming at me like, all right, sounds good. And I just was in a parade with my kids' school and next to the Shriners. And so I had gotten a business card from one of those brothers. And so I was like, okay, I'll check this
Hmm.
out. And I went through Wilmhurst's book, and it was everything where about 7 years prior to that, I'd been on a very deep exploration of self-reflection, spiritual journey. And this fit right in line with everything I was going for. And then it gave me context to apply it in the real world. That's one of the great things about actually masonry is it gives you, and we use tools as metaphors and analogies, but it's actually practical. It's a system that does better men when you use it. And I think there's a shortage of that. And so that's why the education is key. So with Wilmhurst, it was his book is whimsical as the best. It would be that he's the optimist, whereas MacNulty is a realist. I enjoy MacNulty's background, and his book is pragmatic. It's this is Freudian psychology, this is Jungian psychology. Here's how we're going to apply this going forward, which I find fantastic. It's a great base to build forward. Whereas Wilmhurst doesn't get into the minutia of of why things are. It's his thoughts on the subject, his understanding, and then he just takes it to the moon and goes, "Well, did you know that, the lodge officers represent the psyche, and here's how we do this, and here's how it applies." And the analogies are amazing. They're applicable and fascinating. So,
Mm. I got to go back to entered apprentice brother Garrett Pottmeyer. This would have been, I'm guessing, 5+ years ago, maybe, when you first
uh,
joined.
yeah, initiated in 21.
Okay. And you are being handed a piece of paper or a little pamphlet, and you're like, this is the cipher that you must learn, or this is the catechism you must learn, or here's the brother that you're going to be meeting with at whenever, so that you can do this work to become a fellow craft. Is that kind of the structure
Yeah.
of?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, depending on which jurisdiction you're in, it would be considered, I guess, long form. So it's a 4-page mini booklet, catechism, all in cipher, and you must repeat the whole thing with your coach west of the altar.
Nice.
And
Perfect.
and so yeah,
From
all the same.
memory.
Yeah, yeah, from
Yep,
memory.
yep.
Yep.
That's 100% is what we have to say in New York as well. 100% of that you have to do. Yeah, and the timeline of when you can do it's totally on your own.
Yeah.
My Masonic educator, I used to go to his office with the other 10 guys that were in my degree class, and we would sit around the conference room table, and he didn't even need the cipher because he'd been doing it for so long. Right Worshipful Brother Michael Brockbank, he would just pop up every once in a while, and he would know, oh, that was supposed to be an, not an like,
Yeah.
or there's supposed to be a comma there. Make sure you have more of a pause. Like, how do you know
Yeah.
this stuff? But my question is, when you go back and you look at that young Garrett, right, to where you are now as the senior warden of the lodge, did you ever think that you, specifically you, would be the guy doing this right now?
Uh, yes and no.
Okay.
Th I mean, I was inspired to come in, and so when I did, and then I put masonry and masons on a pedestal, and possibly to a fault, and also to a great benefit. And so coming in, it was I had I don't know, I don't want to call them delusions, but I had this beautiful emblematic resemblance of masonry through Wilmshurst, and I
Mm,
didn't understand why my lodge wasn't that way. Like from understandings to performance uh to education to application, and it just wasn't there. And so it was like, okay, well, that inspired me. Let's go. Let's offer this. Let's do these things. And from there, it was nonstop. So I didn't. Nobody else was getting up to do it.
gotcha.
So at that point, it's me. I'm going to do it. This sounds great. I like doing it. I don't mind speaking in front of people. And I just made sure I was well read before I did it, and went from there.
Okay. For me, that was not the case. I did not know that there was going to be a educational component in my Masonic experience. I was one
Oh,
of the
gotcha.
people that nobody in my family had been a Mason. Nobody that I knew, except for my best friend in college who became a Mason, was the guy that kind of turned me on to it. But I had no idea. They're like, when they handed me the little pamphlet and they're like, you're going to be, memorizing this. I'm like, when? And they're like, well,
Wait,
if you want to do
all
the
of it?
next degree within the next 4 months, and I'm like, I don't got time for that. Like,
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
You're like, can I just pay some way around it? Like, what? How do I get it? And famous words that I just remember seeing, the if words could be seen coming out of my mouth and hitting my education coach in the chest, and his heart just like breaking and shattering into 1,000 pieces, is when I said, look, I'm going to learn this book so I can get to the next stage in doing this. But I just want you to know I'm putting it in a temporary folder in my brain, and I'm never going to remember any of this stuff after this. And he was just like, okay. And the funny thing is, of all the things that I've had to been forced to like stuff in here over the years, it's ritual is the thing that I can quote when I don't have a podcast to listen to and I'm out running in the morning, and I can just start going through a degree or the opening and closing, and it's like, wow, it stayed with me. I never
Yeah.
thought that I would be the one who would be sitting down next to somebody else, but then it kind of makes sense because I was the hard person to reach to do that. So I wanted to make sure that the brothers that I could help were getting the same kind of experience, or the opportunity to get the same kind of experience that I had. but didn't have to go trying to seek it themselves, because that clapboard style of masonry, and that's what you got to do, and you got to do it, man. It's like independent study. You're watching YouTube videos, you're trying to read books on your own, because, and I've heard it from brothers that are like, we just don't have any of this in my lodge. And I feel for them, because they're
Yeah.
really seeking it. To be able to take a program like this and develop it for your lodge, like that is really, really special. And if I could, I would say you should be Mason of the Year. No, at your
Thank you.
lodge, Grants Pass Lodge, Mason of the Year. But I want to get into kind of the structure of this. So you're drawing from Wilmshurst. You've got MacNulty. I really like MacNulty's style of his book, where it's like, hey, we're going to talk about the ashlars. And then at the
Yeah.
end, it's a couple paragraphs. And then there's like, okay, here's 3 takeaway questions. Think about this for, before we move on to the next chapter. How did you design your process, your schedule, so to speak?
I actually took a lot of that from from coaching youth soccer. I had done that for 15 years, and so there was certain programs of where you're going to initiate an idea, display an exercise, make them do it, talk about it during it, and then you're going to take it and then apply it in a completely different drill to see if they can do the exercise they just practiced individually and apply it
Hmm.
to something greater.
I
So that was
okay.
kind of my format.
So you kind of walk me through that with an example of the 24-inch gauge. I'm
Yeah.
assuming that a lot of your program is built around working tools and parts of the degrees that we can, and the ritual that we can kind of openly talk about, because it's like out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So if I was to say, what would be, if as much as you can share, your lesson on the square? Because I love in the fellow craft degree when we talk about the square, and it's like, it's a square because it's a square. It's like, oh, well, yeah, that's really what a square is. It's just a
Yeah.
square. How do you talk about the square?
So as far as the square, being virtuous and morality being the primary virtues of that emblem, one of it is again, it's the application. So one of it, uh, I went about it. Let's see, circumscribing our passions. So while it's not specifically the square, more related to the compasses, it still falls within the same. So that idea is, well, how do you change your perception? Because there is no change without a change of perception. It doesn't happen. If I don't see it differently, I'm always going to do what I'm always going to do. So with regards to circumscribing our passions and or being more virtuous or being more moral, the example I give is a daily example: driving in traffic. Happens all the time. Everybody does it, and the road rage is real. But at some point, when you change your perspective to give the benefit of the doubt to the person in front of you that's doing the ridiculous thing in the road that is infuriating you, what if you take the example that they are, they're headed to the hospital, they're driving like a maniac, you don't know. Maybe they've got grandma's china in the back, they're going extra slow, they can't take turns
Mm,
very fast. So you take that and you take them, you take yourself out of yourself. You kind of step back and go, well, I have no idea what's going on with that person. And now you can change your perception because you give them the benefit of the doubt. Or anytime we're driving, it's always okay, however we're driving, whenever we're driving. This is what I'm doing because you know what you're doing. You know that you got 2 kids in the back and it's going chaos and you're just trying to keep it on the road. And other people are thinking the exact same thing about you as you just thought about somebody else that was in front of you 30 seconds ago. So
mm,
when you change your perception, you're able to actually change how you do things. If you're not willing to change your perception, nothing is going to help. So if I can
mm.
find that application of the square to go, look, to be more moral or to circumscribe your passions, here's a way to do it in a daily application. Now you have context. Now I gave you something to work with, and you can take that every day you step behind the wheel. Now you have that.
Last question on the process part, or
Sure.
your I'm trying to remember the work schedule, or what was it in teaching that they would always say, your lesson plan
Lesson plan. Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
you would have to put together before we get into the next stage, which is how you integrate this into a lodge experience, which is
Yeah.
really for me the fascinating part, where I'm like, wow, this is next level. Your lesson plan, for lack of a better term, is it printed out? Is it in like a PDF form? Like, how's it put
Like
together?
when I'm offering it or like as in throughout the year? I'm not sure you're
Well, if somebody, because I know Good point. I'm just going to cut to the chase. I know there's brothers listening. There's also me that's now extremely interested in how you've done this and would love to be like, hey, I'd like to see what you've done. And if you're cool with it, share it. But also read it and go like, oh, cool. Well, I could do this, but I could make it work for my lodge by making this change or this change.
Yeah.
Is your lesson plan just all up in your head, or is it something you've actually documented?
Most of it's in my head as far as how I'm going to go about it. The other part is like
Oh,
for anybody
next
trying to
step,
get
we need to get you on the blog so you can write all these ideas down.
That's fair. Part of it is I don't have a scheduled format, and in fact, I pair up with another brother in lodge that because in Oregon it is required to read some point of the code, so we try to get some part of the code or ritual or
During your meetings?
yeah during the meetings.
Oh, I mean, it must be as exciting as hearing the secretary's
It's
minutes.
pretty brutal, and you hear the same things all the time. When it's November, we're gonna read how to ballot. Yep, I got it.
Mm,
So it's tough. It has benefit, and if you can roll it into something that applies, then it has potential to stick. At the end of the day, it's still code. So usually I've got a brother. I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about this next month, and what do you think? He's like, oh, I'll find something in the code that coordinates. And so we at least try to pair it. So he's reading something, and then we go right into something that is semi-related. It doesn't always work like that, and sometimes that was cool. We're gonna go this way. It's not always consistent. So as far as a
okay.
lesson plan goes, a lot of it actually comes asking questions. Um, I'll go to the worshipful master. Hey, what would you like to know more about? And he goes, oh, well, I'd like to know. Oh, we had a question. Last worshipful master had a question about deacon rods and the cornucopia and why are those the symbols are for the stewards, and then the deacons, why the sun and the moon. And so we went into origination of that. It had some Egyptian heritage to it. And so it's kind of a ask question basis. So anybody trying to start, ask questions. What is your lodge
Mm,
interested in?
right.
Is because if there's always somebody that's going to go, oh, what about this? Ooh, what about if you ask them, there's things they don't know, and they
right.
will tell you. You know, they would like to know more, but maybe they don't have the time to research it on their own. And if somebody's inspired to do it for them, even better.
Oh, dude, and I think any master that's listening right now is wishing, I'm like, God, wish I had a junior warden that would do this. It was enough to just get him to get the right dinner for. No offense to those guys. I'm just saying in general, like to
Yeah,
have a brother that steps up and says, "Hey, worshipful, what can I do to help you with the program for your next meeting?" Like, oh my God, aces again.
yeah,
Mason of the year.
yeah.
What's going on here? All right. So I'll also put this out there because I'm sure we have, a listener or maybe even a YouTube live streamer that's like, I really want to get in touch with this guy. I'll throw my email address out there to spare you from, the folks from China or Ghana that are going to want to try to join your
Right.
lodge
I
or
love
just
those. I love those
steal
guys.
all your personal information.
Yeah.
Our email address on the show is podcast@craftsmanonline.com. It's all one word there. Podcast@craftsmanonline.com. Remember, it's craftsmen, not craftsman. That's a different kind of tool. I want to get to the point, and I feel like calling you Coach Garrett now that I know you've
Oh,
got
all
that
right,
background.
man.
I
I'll
love
take it.
that. You're so used to it. But
Yeah.
it's Brother Garrett, senior warden of his lodge, Grants Pass Lodge in Oregon. We were talking about your Masonic education program, which I've equated to being more of like a study session, which I love. The thing that you mentioned in our conversation leading up to this podcast recording is now how you bring the brothers who are going through this to being part of the programs, where you purposely engage everybody to be a part of the lectures in the degree of your lodge. How did you do that?
Trial and error.
Locked the door and made them.
Yeah, yeah. That's a tough one because it's. We've had some instances in lodge where I'm like, whoa, what an awesome idea for self-reflection. No, there are
Mm,
members of the lodge that disagreed with me on that topic, and I mean, I've been stood up against in lodge. You're done. I don't want to hear anymore. And it's like, oh, okay, this is not how I wanted this to go down. I thought it would be thought-provoking, self-reflection, and it turned into a little bit of anger and chaos, and it was interesting. So it is
mm,
some trial and error. Not everybody likes my brand of Freemasonry, is the best way to put it. And that's okay.
yeah.
So with that, sometimes lodge education is during lodge, and other times it's after. So depending on your topic and the length, if it's in lodge, I try to keep it less than 10 minutes just because other people have stuff to do. I have,
Mm,
they have families to get home to. Excuse me. They have families to get home to. They've got shows to watch. There's other things they want to do, and it's not necessarily what I want them to do at the time. So sometimes it's been in, other times it's been after. If I've got a program with visual aid, it's going to be a little longer. I will make it after. So essentially, closed lodge. We've got a little study lounge at Grants Pass 84, and so we go in there and we can relax and have something to sip on, and I've got some indoor scrubbers and fans, and have a cigar, and we can have a discussion. And so it's just a relaxed atmosphere. And for longer topics, that goes really well. And the discussions are always better too because nobody feels like, well, I don't they're waiting to close. I don't want to ask another question. And so you get
mm.
rid of some of that. And so it depends on the education, depends on the format, depends what you're after and who you're after. That way too, the people that don't want it can go. And
Yeah.
then you don't have any dissension standing up in the middle of lodge, and you don't have things like that where it's just like everybody that's there in that room wants to be there for one reason
Yep.
or another. And so that's always more effective education. So you definitely need to read your lodge. You need to know who wants what. And if it's not a bulk of it, save it for after. The guys that want
Yeah.
to stick around, they always will.
Same thing. When I was master, I noticed during my time as junior warden having to order the meals, senior warden literally having to chase guys down to make sure they were coming to lodge, they were going to be there for dinner, that this was not working. Dinner
Yeah.
beforehand, a meeting, and then the education was a component within the meeting, as so many, that's the tradition for many lodges. I'm like, nope, we're changing it this year. We're going to
Yep.
move our meeting time up by 30 minutes. We're going to cancel dinner. The gavel's going to drop at 7 o'clock. We're going to do a no more than 1 hour business meeting. I really want to get us out of here within 30 minutes if possible. We're going
That's
to
important too.
yeah.
It,
Yeah, there's an agenda that's now in place. Like, if you want to talk about something, it's got to come through me. If it's not on the agenda and it's not an emergency or pressing, it is not happening. I never got a surprise like that, but there was a lot of structure. And the idea was, we're going to move to what you're saying. We're going to move the education part to after the lodge meeting, and we're also going to have our meal then. And while the speaker is talking, we
mm,
can, be at a certain point after scarving it down. Maybe we're on our seconds or at the dessert course when the program starts, so that the guys do have that chance for fellowship outside and after the meeting. But we know that the program, and it took a little while, and by the third or fourth month, they're like, okay, they appreciated that. To what you're saying is, the guys that had to run home or whatever, they could go do it.
yeah.
No one was going to throw a stone at him. Like, I
Yeah.
wasn't going to chase him down in the parking lot.
Yeah.
It was all good. And that way the speaker could go for an hour, maybe an hour and a half. I mean, we had one discussion one night that went for almost 2 hours and nobody complained because it was that good.
And that's
But
awesome. The discussion is key because also retention is
oh yeah,
once you discuss, the retention just starts going through the roof. And that's actually the important part. Like, I can talk at you all I want, but retention's going to be 10, 20% at best.
oh yeah,
Once you start
yep.
discussing, it jumps to 40, 50, 60. It's way better.
Also helps at my lodge in DC, we meet at the Shriners Temple, so there's a bar in our meeting, in
Yep.
our so
Doesn't
that's
hurt.
doesn't
Lubrication is
hurt.
nice.
Yeah. But it's all, the point that I'm building up to is about lodge culture, because you touched on it. And
Yeah.
it's hard to think, but I can imagine that, your idea of, hey, I want to take our education program, since there is a lack of one, and really make it more skills/study based, more practical, this and that, to help these brothers get through it. There might be people that have, well, this is the established way that we've done it, or they have their own ideas for things. I'm
Yeah.
curious though, as a coach, when you see a change in your offense or your defense, and like, hey, in one game we made some changes, but these are just kind of responses. We haven't had enough time on the field to measure the real
Yeah.
change and where we're going. What has been the change that you've noticed now, the buy-in from brothers, or the reception from brothers, or just the experience that it's been almost 2 years that this style has been available to them?
Um, I would like to say retention, since it's been a lot though, so it's really hard to pinpoint on based on just the education alone. Our
Mm.
lodge is in transition of culture, transition of predominant age, transition of intention. We've got a lot going on in our lodge, so it's hard to pin. As much as I would love to pinpoint it on education, oh, they heard about this and now they're here forever. But it is that culture. The education is now part of the culture. It is not always expected. Every now and then we'll go through a stated meeting and it's just the stated and that's it. That's what it had to be. Stated went long. I would prefer to bring up a topic next time. So that pivot where, okay, offense is on the field the whole time. There is no other chance. It's just the way
Mm.
it is. And you have to be okay with pivoting. At first I wasn't. I was just like, oh, we need to do this. You guys, you're missing out. But that's not true. That's not what everybody's there for. And I'm, I've yet to have somebody go, why no education tonight? And it really hasn't had like that, but
Oh,
there
dude,
has
that's gotta
been.
warm your heart when you hear it, though.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's a big thing too, is when guys bring up topics, that's awesome. I love it when a brother comes up months later, he's like, "I tried that traffic thing, and I actually calmed myself down." I'm like, "That's a win." Like, I don't there's not always a lot of response after education. Sometimes you get, "Oh, that was a really cool topic," or this or that.
Mm.
But I mean, the ones that really get me is where they go, "I took this Masonic homework and I applied it and I changed my mind. My perception in this moment changed." And I'm like, that's a win. I mean, if that's the one person I touch with that education, I'll take it every time.
Awesome. I love that. I spend a lot of time with our Grand Lodge in New York, serving on committees and working with the worshipful, most worshipful Grand Master. Jeez, get it right.
Come on, get it together.
Only I've had to say it for like 2 years.
Yeah,
But it's been a real honor and pleasure in it. And I think that's the one thing that has really put a note on me. It's very similar in my professional space where working with the CFO or the CEO or the chief technology or whoever the senior leadership is, they're always going to say, "What's your goal for this? And how are you going to measure success with a program like this?" Not
yeah,
because they're looking for repeatable success, but because at high business levels, at high leadership levels, these KPIs, these key performance, they're key to seeing where things are going. Like, what are your benchmarks and how are you going to change if things don't work? We got to figure out how to equate this. And it's hard. I could hear, the struggle in your voice. It is hard to say what's a win for Masonic education or study in lodges. For me, it was I wanted my guys to have a better grasp of being able to speak quote unquote our Masonic language and
yeah,
interact in
yeah.
programs.
That's super important.
Yeah, but two, like the real mission, I would say, for what I was doing was we needed to find a way to get whatever if ritual was a barrier to a brother wanting to move into the officer leadership line, how can we minimize that barrier? And if it's by teaching them that there's other ways to study ritual or to approach it besides the memorization, because if that's a problem, there's other tactics we can use to work on that. But if
Yeah,
it's just they hear ritual and they're like, no, I don't want to
yeah.
learn, like me, then what can we do to get you to eat your vegetables? How do we make this fun?
Applicable. Again, if you can recontextualize something that somebody understands it in a different way. I mean, explaining the 24-inch gauge in one way may work for a person, but you might have to explain it in another, break it down, segment it more, or just give them that actual application. I could tell you about it, or it's that I can you can catch a man a fish, or you can teach him to fish.
Mm,
And so if you can teach however you explain it. If you explain it in multiple ways, then you have a better success rate. And so it does become applicable. And the great part about it is we now have guys coming in and going, man, I've got a great idea for education next month. Can I do it?
mm,
Absolutely. Like, because you're going to explain something differently than I will. And your take on it is your take. That's one of the great things about masonry is while there's a base level of information that come with the tools and emblems, there's also multiple understandings of how you impart that in your life or how you take on that information. So to hear it from another brother gives you that expansion where, this brother explains it this way and it connected with this brother. One of the more like quintessential ideas of that applying is, so we've had a brother in our lodge do every lecture for the last 12 years.
Mm.
So every degree, he's been the man. And then the unfortunate part is nobody's tried to relieve him. And so at one point he reached some burnout, and then he took a job out of town for a little bit. And suddenly we're like, oh, wait a minute. We can't do our own work because we're one of few lodges that can do all of the work. We don't have to borrow from any other lodge. And we frequently get called to help other lodges because we can do every lecture in house. We can fulfill the entire role of the second section of the Master Mason degree, and so it's a rarity, I guess I would say, in this day and age, because
Right.
I know we're not alone. So
Well, it is a rarity for lodges to be able to do a degree all by themselves without
yeah,
help.
and all three.
Yeah, major, 'cause there's a lot of
Yeah,
parts, but it's also even more rare for a lodge to be able to say, "Hey, we'll pick up and travel to your lodge to help you out for your degree night, and we can
yeah,
bring a cast, and you can just help us with a few." That's also super rare. So,
yeah.
Lodge of the Year, I think there's another award that should go to Grants Pass.
We
I'm
just
just giving them out today, man.
this one and that. I love it. I love it.
I know we talked about we had planned to do this for an hour, our recording. I've got 2 questions left. I don't want to eat up all your time.
All good.
Cool.
Like I said,
Um,
I love doing this. So whatever you
I know.
got. Oh,
Well,
actually, to finish my point on the lecture, so we started varying the lecture. So I stepped into lecture as well as another brother, and so we were able to relieve that brother. And on our first couple times of doing the lecture, we had other brothers that had been there for a decade go, I never understood this section before. The way your
mm,
intonation was, it just hit me differently, and now I understand something different about the why a lodge is situated from east to west, or something
yep.
in that manner. And so that variation of lecturers is also pretty huge, just like it is for education. So just that different perspective, that different tone, the different cadence of speech, it just registers differently. It's important to vary.
Mm. I'm going to give you a really long landing strip here because I realize this
Oh,
question is going
nice.
to require some thought. So
Okay.
I'm going to get to like first steps, but just imagine that you're a newly appointed lodge education officer, right? And you're just inheriting this program for your lodge that's been unchanged for 20 years, whether there was a program or there wasn't a program. And just think
Right.
20 years ago was 2006. George W. Bush was president of this country, right?
Been a bit.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like the Iraq War, still a thing. We were getting ready for the economic downturn. Like there was a lot of craziness that was about to happen. Like that is how long 20 years ago, and it seems some days further away than it really actually is.
100%.
So you're walking into your lodge 20 years. This is what they've done, and you've got this idea. You know that there's a need to change things. Where do you start?
Ask questions. Number one, what are you guys interested in? Because it's not always, the education doesn't always have to be about the tools and emblems and how to apply them. We've had history lessons. I wound up procuring 2 really cool copies of the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights. Wound up finding great frames for them and waited until that point, and then brought them into lodge as a tool for education. And we went over this, the signers of the Declaration. 29 of them have at minimum circumstantial evidence that they were Masons out of 56. That's pretty
Mm,
fantastic. And there's a lot of brothers that dig on history. A lot of prospects we get note, I love the historical aspect. I love how long Masonry's been around. I did an education at a lodge nearby, and it was a history on a portion of the apron lecture,
mm.
uh, referring to the Star and Garter. At first, I didn't even know those were 2 separate things. It's the Order of the Star and Order of the Garter. I had
It's
no
not a.
idea.
It's actually not a Masonic bar, although that's a great name for a Masonic bar. If you think about it.
But it was one of those things. And he comes up after, he's like, man, that's why I'm here. The history. I wanted to know these things. And he's like, you're the first person that has brought that up. And he'd been a Mason for the better part of a decade.
Mm,
So the variation is key too. It doesn't have to be application every time. Just a history lesson on, did you know Voltaire was raised to Master Mason on April 4th of 1764, or something like that, where you go, oh, that's cool. Our stated meeting happened to be on that same day. Hey, historian, here you go. This is what you should talk about tonight. He's like,
mm.
oh, okay, I will. So there's all kinds of ask questions, coming back to it, because you don't know what everybody's into. You don't know what they want. Sometimes, I think more often, I think there's a lot of brothers that don't know what they want. They want to be a Mason. They want to do better. They want to be better, but they don't know how. It actually kind of takes us back to the beginning of this, of like that lacking of a father figure, or they just don't, that masculine energy in the household. They don't know what to do.
Oh,
And
I go
nobody
to
showed
the.
them.
Oh no, go ahead. They
Oh,
notice
no,
one.
and nobody showed them. And so Masonry offers all of these things. I mean, from we've got guys that have come in. It's the first time they've worn a suit in their life,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and it's significant because you took them out of their comfort zone, and so they walk in and you can see that they do not feel comfortable in the clothing they are wearing.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of lodge, it's a different story, because they're
Yep.
just, oh, everybody's in a suit. I mean, they've seen
Yep.
it prior, and so they knew it was coming, but they went out on their own and they're like, nope, tonight's jacket and tie and collared shirt, and this is slacks. And I've even
Yeah.
had brothers go out and purchase new stuff where they're just like, this old baggy tux isn't going to do it for me. I want something more contemporary, something I really feel good in.
Oh
And
yeah.
so to come in and watch older brothers do that, where they change and they go, "This is great." I'm not only is it an update of fashion, but it's a security for them. They go,
Right.
"I'm trying something new. I've never worn these double monk shoes before, and this is
There you
amazing."
go.
You know,
Dude, I'm laughing because I mean our YouTube live streamer, and you can see I'm wearing a Under Armour hoodie because I ran
yeah,
this
yeah.
morning and I just didn't feel like putting on a shirt with a collar. But
Oh
I'm
man, I
thinking
get it.
of upstairs, where I have like 3 tuxedos, 5 black suits, all the things you're talking about, because when you get to a certain level, you're out more, you're attending
Yeah.
more functions, and it just becomes part of the wardrobe. And my wife, who gives me shit every time I go to lodge, and she's like, "Oh, you're all dressed up for your brothers, but I can't even get you to get dressed up when we go out on a date." Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
true
Yeah,
facts.
yeah.
So
Well, you see, you
facts.
got to find that balance. It's time for a dress up date night.
Yeah, well, that's her dream. All right. It is just Brother Garrett Pottmeyer.
It
I
is.
was going to put worshipful in front of it because you're wise, and I know that you're on the path to get there. He has developed a fantastic Masonic education / study program that goes way beyond the check the box mindset that a lot of our lodges have, and I think it's brought such value to your brothers at Grants Pass Lodge in Oregon. For our brother that's listening right now, if you could help them, their lodge needs to change one thing about their approach to education this year. One thing. In 2026, what should that thing be?
Well, if you don't have it, you need to have it. It's got so much application that it only benefits the lodge. There's no reason not to have it. I know that rush feeling when your stated goes to an hour and a half and you're like, I don't know if I should talk anymore,
Mhm.
but still have it, because somebody from there is going to benefit from it, and they're going to really appreciate that you're discussing the thing that they came in for. So if you're missing it, you need it. If you already have it and you're bored of it, then you got to switch something up. Where's the application? If you give it a take home, if you do that Masonic homework, it's really important, because whether people do it or not, it's offered. We had one that we incorporated lodge finances, and then pivoted off into communication, and then pivoted off into the Masonic homework of it was write a letter, because intention is huge. Write a letter to your significant other, what your intention is for Masonry. Why are you here? Because some brothers, they're here and brotherhood is super important to them. But I find that brotherhood is actually the byproduct of the betterment process. By
Mm.
doing the things, the brotherhood expands. There's no greater icebreaker I have seen in my life to this point than the EA degree. Because after that, everybody knows you've walked through the same footsteps, and immediately they go, you're my brother. Whatever you need, I got you. And when you go to another lodge, it's received the same way. So it's necessary, but you have to make it applicable.
Mm.
So if your education program is weaning or non-existent, you have to find something that touches somebody in the lodge, because that's how you inspire. That's how you build. That's how you change culture. When people go, ooh, I want that. I see what we're doing here. I want that. How do I get that into my life? And if you give them a take home, like the letter, and you go, I'm going to write this letter to my spouse and tell her what my intention is for Freemasonry, why
Oh, I
I'm
thought it was
here.
going out to dinner.
Yeah. You know what? That's fine too. Uh, but I mean, when you make that intention, one, you let you know, and that's actually the most important.
Mhm.
We cover things like that in our chamber of reflection. It's, hey, you do this. It's things to ponder. You're about to enter into a new degree. This is a new chapter in your life. I want you to have some thought about it. And it's the same too, because communication is key because we don't do it enough. How many times do you hear a brother go, my wife's pissed. I'm coming to lodge. Did you tell him what you do here? I mean, does she think it's like a frat party that you're dressing up for? Or does she
Mm.
actually know there's some betterment aspect of it that actually, when you better yourself, you better everyone around you. And then that betters the community and it works out. It's an epicenter. And so if you write that letter and you make that intention, you're communicating better. You've added intention to yourself. You've got a take home. If your spouse knows what you're doing and why you're trying to do it, they're more understanding and immediately you've improved things. So as far as education goes, I think the take home is key.
Mm.
Some sort of Masonic homework, some sort of application, recontextualize old things. How do you apply
Yep.
that 24-inch gauge? It's not just a thing to measure. It's something to apply to your life. I believe it's one of the reasons that it's offered in that first degree. If you can find balance here, the rest of life gets real easy, and finding balance is difficult for most people.
I say this in so many episodes where I'm like, "Oh, I'm so excited for this episode," and I was, but I'm more excited for people to hear it. I can't wait for this one to go live, and I can't thank you enough for coming on and giving us some extra time as well,
Yeah,
Brother Garrett
my pleasure.
Pottmeyer. Thank you so much for being on the Craftsman Online podcast.
Absolutely. And thank you for all of what you do. I have been listening for quite some time now. I think I'm at least caught up on all 5 seasons or going into the fifth. Are we going in the sixth or into
We're
the
in
fifth?
6 now. Yeah.
Okay, six.
Yeah.
But I love what you do, and I love the consistency of how you do it because that's key too. Every Monday, I can rely on a new episode. The variety of topics is amazing. So keep up what you're doing because I really appreciate it, and I know a lot of brothers at Grants Pass 84 really enjoy what you do.
Awesome.